Hello, my name is Alexandre Grutman, and welcome back to Senior Boulevard TV. In Senior Boulevard TV's latest overview, I want to give you on a regular basis as from now, throughout the year, a short debrief on our past webinars and insights gathered, as well as give some guidance on what can be expected moving forward. And just to remind the people that haven't been following since the beginning, the purpose of our channel, SeniorBoulevard.tv, is to flag the global senior housing deficit as one of the top priorities for the years to come, by providing our audience more visibilities and insights on the market opportunities, but also the challenges. We also believe that the current hospitality crisis is an unprecedented necessity to reallocate part of the service they provide, as well as assets they dispose towards the seniors. We do this by conducting expert interviews on the senior housing topic, as well as the potential solutions and initiatives to undertake. Before going into the content of the last week's interview, I want to emphasize that our platform is designed to be linguistically as neutral as possible. In order to make this possible, use English as the standard language, but with our expert talking in the language they feel most comfortable with. All interviews are transcribed so that you can select your preferred language, automatically generating the subtitles you need in order to follow the conversation. And with today's browsers like Chrome, Edge, or others, you can also consult our website in any language you prefer by challenging the setting in your browser. You will mostly find this option in the advanced settings. As we have a European and global focus, this is extremely important. This being said, we had the last 6 weeks the privilege of conducting a first sequence, which have been very enriching for me. The followers we attracted, live attendance during the interviews, as well as the people's reactions over the past weeks, only have encouraged me to continue the journey, and I will say a few words on that towards the end of this session. But before diving into the future, let me give you an overview on what were really the takeouts and lessons learned from these first sessions of first expert interviews. So here's a quick overview. To start off with, in our first interview, and in order to set the scene as broadly as possible, I invited a full-blown serial entrepreneur in the senior living industry, having many years of hands-on experience in realizing innovative concepts around elderly housing, with at the same time strong financial background, combined with an excellent vision on what the different care models are in Europe. Would have been even more ideal or more perfect if you could have also an expert having a good understanding on the challenges of the hospitality industry to identify potential links with the senior living topic. So therefore, I invited Mrs. Hilde Bosmans, who actually ticks all the boxes in this domain. Hilde gave us a clear takeaways to consider. First of all, the conclusion that the existing housing solutions for seniors is no longer a strategy to pursue. And there is a strong need for more adapted solutions towards the senior needs and their direct entourage. Even with all the most positive forecast initiative we could undertake together, we will not have hands to absorb the needs of the seniors. Hilde explained that there has been evolution in senior housing offerings in some regions in Europe, but there is still a long way to go to fully respond qualitatively as well as quantitatively to the needs of seniors. So innovation is an unquestionable focus we should have, using the models and the technologies to successfully realize them. Furthermore, she shared with me that the solution that we are after needs to be holistic in approach. We need to consider all aspects of the senior or longevity needs. So we need to look at all-inclusive operating models and make sure that they are viable and affordable in the long run. In this context, finance is key here. And this entire industry also needs to be revisited, as today our current financial context is not adequately equipped to provide necessary solutions. Don't forget, today we're faced with zero or negative interest rates. We have a cost of living that are under pressure. We have wealth preservation we need to monitor, as well as the smooth transfer of wealth to the next generations, are just a few elements that we really need to consider in this context. The dramatic demographic shift we are facing, combined with our debt levels, even before Corona, will put our economies under tremendous pressure to continue realizing sufficient growth to finance the core tasks our government needs to provide to its citizens. So support to informal caregivers will be a necessity to avoid that they are not totally overwhelmed supporting their loved ones. Technology is crucial to realize this, but it cannot be a mean to an end. And finally, she acknowledged that the hospitality industry, in terms of services, their unique client-oriented approach, the content of their services, as well as their infrastructure, represents an unprecedented economic opportunity to develop. I was delighted to have this interview. It was a very strong testimony, so I strongly recommend people to review it on the platform. We actually covered so many topics that we had to split it into 2 sections. So you can all watch it again on our website on seniorboulevard.tv under Past Experts on the Spot sessions. In my next Expert on the Spot interview, I had the privilege of having the insights from a more Nordic-oriented expert with strong international experience. Esther Davidson has been active for many years in assistive technologies for the seniors with her organization, Guiding 65. She indicated actually that similar demographic challenges were going on in Denmark compared to other European countries. But what I was able to discover was that innovation related to senior housing is mainly coming from the public sector, and that they are particularly the driver for change. In this context, they really push for innovative technologies to be embedded into the house of the seniors. They also developed a clear strategy to accompany this innovation path. I found this quite amazing, and therefore I am certainly willing to have additional insight from Esther moving forward, as this seemed to be a great setting for innovation to occur. Another element was that there is room for growth and equally space for the private sector to develop new types of co-living or residential solutions. So I'm definitely looking forward to gain more insights from Esther. So I will definitely invite her on in the future on the show. For people, again, that want to review the video, you can find it on our past sessions on Expert on the Spot on our website, seniorboulevard.tv. My 4th interview was very close to home, obviously. I had the privilege to have Anne Jean, the president of Avril, on the channel. Avril is the most established senior housing focused association in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, and therefore has been in pole position in understanding the past evolutions in senior housing. What I gained from this conversation is the versatility and approaches we are confronted with in Switzerland as a cantonal-oriented health, but also an overall cantonal-based democratic system. So therefore, understanding the different cantonal approaches towards senior housing and perhaps even benchmarking them is definitely something I will have to deepen further with Anne and her association. This was even more triggered after the following session I had covering the Swiss-German side of the country. One thing is for sure, the role of the private sector or private undertakings, as well as the private sector in general, is definitely not perceived equally in both sides of the Sarine. The Sarine being the river representing the linguistic border in the French versus German-speaking side of Switzerland. In combination with the cantonal approach, one cannot deny the strong federal focus on innovation, on research, to its federal research and educational institutions. And Anne made that quite clear also in our interview. This innovation ecosystem is quite impressive, I must admit. It is therefore not a coincidence that Switzerland is frequently mentioned as the world #1 innovation-oriented country. One way or the other, the bridge between innovation and the local health system remains a challenge. I therefore expected a lot from my next interview during this week of interviews. During the 5th Expert on the Spot interview, Daniel Böhringer enlightened me on the Swiss-German perspectives towards senior living, and I had particular expectations towards his perspectives. Daniel has been quite a long time active in the digital health ecosystem in Switzerland, being part of very strategic national initiatives in the country. Daniel immediately met the expectations as he pulled out recent research and market studies indicating the need for adapted solutions regarding senior living and the necessity of a more segmented approach between traditional housing, and nursing homes. He backed it all up with statistics he gathered and also recent legislative initiatives regarding assisted living and the potential financing options to support it. The case brought for assisted living was clear, as well as was the role of technology in this segment. It all was clearly identified by Daniel. What I find particular is that he comes to the same conclusion as me. He sees the assisted living potential and the need for technology as an acceleration for the rest of the digital health deployment in the country. So taking into account Daniel's role with Axana, I believe this is something worthwhile to explore further and more in depth moving forward. So I also will invite him definitely again on the channel. For the ones that have missed the interview, you can watch the whole interview again on seniorboulevard.tv. As again on the past expert on the spot interviews. For my sixth interview, I was very happy to have Stephen Johnson last week on the show. Stephen is the founder of Aging 2.0, one of the largest global organizations focused on longevity, addressing the opportunities and challenges towards seniors. I am myself very happy to be a member of this organization, representing the Lausanne chapter as an ambassador. So needless to say that Stephen has a total global view on what's happening in the world of longevity, whether it's a local or a global strategy from a government at whatever level, or innovative companies or undertakings. Stephen and his network will likely know about it. Hence, what to expect moving forward from that ecosystem. I asked Stephen to focus more in particular on senior service providers in general and what to expect coming from them, but also, again, where he sees the opportunities and challenges, according to him, especially in a post-COVID context. He explained that although the growing level of need for services were not a surprise, but at the same time, there is still an enormous untapped potential, and even worse, we even have an awareness issue, and that's where the most likely potential lies. There is still an enormous lagging focus from industries towards seniors, and need for supportive services still needs to be overly underestimated. At the same time, he indicated there are many differences between industries that focus on senior segments, and also between geographical regions in that respect. Some have a much more adapted or advanced focus towards the senior segment, and some regions in the world have really developed themselves as quite interesting ecosystems, which then other countries can benefit from. Stephen mentioned some regions as an example, which certainly needs to be considered. So I would definitely, for the ones that want to know more about, I strongly recommend to have a look at the video on our platform. Stephen really triggered my appetite here. And again, I would love to dive into some of the items we discussed more in depth moving forward. So I also, again, look forward to him having back on the show. So now that we went through the interviews and all the points that we went through and what we've been able to gather so far in terms of insights, perhaps a few words on what can be expected as from now. Well, thanks to the many positive reactions we received, we will first of all continue the discovery of other countries and how they are dealing with the senior housing challenges and opportunities. My first thoughts go to the Spanish market, Belgian market, as well as other Nordic countries. Belgium is, for instance, an interesting case, as it certainly currently is facing high vacancy rates in senior living. That is actually a quite interesting situation, and which indicates that a growing market context is not a guarantee for success. So that's certainly on the agenda. In parallel, we will start to highlight adjacent stakeholders in the ecosystem. For instance, how do the direct environment of the seniors look at the challenges of senior housing, but also more in general, as we are lacking sufficient health professionals in a context of continuous growth in demand of care and support? What is out there to alleviate families, friends, and informal caregivers? This is exactly what we'll be talking about next week with Patrick Hofer. Patrick Hofer has recently launched an organization called Proaidant, and he's at the pulse of what informal caregivers can expect moving forward. Needless to say that I'm particularly interested on what influence they can have on the senior housing market. Furthermore, I would love to open up two additional topics that are, in my opinion, key in developing the infrastructure and services for the future. And that is the entire finance industry and hospitality industry. So how could they provide answers to the unprecedented infrastructural challenge awaiting us? From a finance perspective, I'm thinking of wealth protection, yield generation in a zero or negative interest environment, the future of retirement financing, and fraud or theft protection. What is to be expected from the investor community? How can investors generate returns and at the same time provide infrastructural solutions our seniors are looking for, and all of this in an affordable way? So in a nutshell, we could spend every week the coming year on just a financial subject. So I will first focus the coming weeks on experts that can provide overall perspective on the challenges and opportunities, to then in the next phase dive into these sub-subjects and particular issues. From a hospitality industry crisis, how is the industry looking at the senior market segment? How is the industry currently foreseeing market behavior post-COVID? And to which extent could they integrate temporary stays for seniors as well as foreseeing residential solutions? So a lot is coming the coming months. So I would strongly recommend to stay tuned by subscribing to the channel. And you can do this via our website, seniorboulevard.tv, or our LinkedIn page. And finally, also our YouTube channel. And to end with, and this is important for you to know, we are currently packaging ideas split around 6 core subjects that, in our opinion, perfectly aligns to core aspects enabling us to identify the overall market opportunities. You will see actually that if you go to our website, that our current video channels has been particularly designed around these core subjects. The core subjects are senior housing and real estate, healthcare, finance, demographics, hospitality, and innovation. If you believe you have a topic or impact story or blog or a video with strong relevance you want to share on the channel, don't hesitate to contact us at info@seniorboulevard.tv. We will put it out there or book an expert video with you. We look forward to welcoming you on the channel weekly, every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central European Time, as from this coming Thursday again. Have a great weekend and keep it safe.